kind of amazing sometimes how little deer sign can be really important for deer hunting. And this is an example, but this is a dandy. This last spring, we put a cattle type mineral block right here. Now, we do this in the spring because our deer up here will really benefit from it. Does will have healthier fawns that are licking on these mineral licks. And this isn't salt, this is mineral licks with just traces of salt. But the fawns will be healthier. They'll, fawns that are taking milk from mothers that have a lot of calcium and phosphorus in their milk will be stronger, they'll have bigger bones, they'll grow faster, they're more likely to survive during their fawn year. And bucks, bucks, whatever age they are, will have 10 to 20% heavier antlers than they would if that mineral wasn't there. Minnesota, in this part of Minnesota, calcium is not a big feature of the land. They don't get much calcium up here. Yearling bucks are commonly spikes in this country, not because they are genetically poor, because they just don't get enough calcium in their diet. If we were to, wherever we put out mineral blocks for deer, any yearlings that grow up in the area will be either forkies or 6-pointers instead of just spikes, and that's the difference. But the big bucks, just imagine now, 150-point-inch buck, antlers with 150 inches of measurement. That looks pretty darn good. Most hunters would want to put that deer on the wall and be really proud of it, and rightfully so. But let's say you put out a mineral block in the area where a big buck lives. We know a 2.5-year-old lives right over here. He's got a bedding area not too far from here. But let's say you put one out here for a 150-point buck. He'd have 150-inch buck. 20% of that would be another 30 points. You could make it into a 180. You could make it into a Boone and Crockett buck, a record book buck. If you're a bull hunter, man, a 180 would be really something, because the minimum score for Pope and Young is 145. That would be a really huge buck. But mineral blocks are good. You got to put them out in the spring, early. They start growing their antlers in April, and it's good to have them out at least by the end of April or into early May. You can put them out later and they'll benefit from it, but they won't get as much benefit if you don't put them out really early. Antler growth is all done by September 1st. That's when they shed velvet. Now, after shedding velvet, bucks are not interested in mineral blocks anymore. And by that time, all fawns have been weaned by their mothers, and they're not drinking milk from the mothers anymore, and the mothers aren't interested in minerals anymore. Mineral blocks are not lures during hunting season because the deer just aren't interested in them. But I have never in my life seen a year where all the mineral block was consumed by deer in one summer. Usually they'll last 2-3 summers, but this one is completely gone already. Of course, moose might have got in on this, using this mineral block as well, but what this tells you is that a good number of deer have been coming to this area. There's been a lot of traffic here. You see where the ground is bare like that? Traffic during the summer that killed all the foliage that was on the ground in this particular area to come to this mineral block. And that's typical of wherever you put a mineral block. You could hide it in the most congested area in the woods and deer will find it because of the smell. And there'll be trails all around it and all kinds of tracks, and the dirt will be gone. And they eat foliage. That you know, when rain comes and the minerals spread around on the ground, they'll eat foliage that have those minerals in it as well and create bare spots like this. Now, there's another reason this is a good area. It's about, 4 or 5 years ago, after this clear cut was made, we used to think this would be a darn good spot for a ground blind. And actually we have a natural one sitting down there on the end of this little clear cut here, and this space looked awfully good. Well, this year we had already counted it out because all these second growth popples had filled the area so that you could have 100 deer out there in this little opening and not be able to see them. So just today, some Native Americans had the job of coming into the area, and they're cutting down all the second growth poplar in patches like this to encourage the growth of evergreens in the area. So they want to keep these, because these can smother an area in 3 years, so nothing else can grow there. But there's another reason this is a good area. About the beginning of the second week in November, deer are going to be looking for certain browse plants, and there are lots of those browse plants in this area. I'm going to make a little move here. I'm going to show you some. Just hold on a minute. It looks like we're cutting red osiers down as well as second growth poplar, which is kind of a shame, but because this is a typical one. Usually about the beginning of the second week in November, when you come in an area where there's a lot of plants like this is a red osier, O-S-I-E-R, or red bark dogwood, like people grow in their yards. And usually when the deer start feeding on them, you see a lot of ragged white ends on the branches on that. And red osiers don't mind deer. You know, when the deer came in here and ate some of these plants, you see like that stem was eaten right there. Well, in its place, it grew 2 more stems. And then that last year, they ate those branches, and look at in that place, there's even more stems. There's about 4 to take their places. It's a kind of a sweet wood, easy for whitetails to chew. This is the #1 winter food of whitetails in northern Minnesota. But there's also some other red plants in this area. I think I see some right over here. No, these are osiers too. You know, when you get in a clear cut, a lot of times there'd be stumps like that. And if the stump was that of a red maple or sugar maple, you'll see a lot of suckers coming up from it. That's an oak. Suckers coming up from, and they'll be red as well. And whitetails like them just as much as red osiers. Suckers from stumps of sugar maples. And there are a lot of sugar maples in this country. Over there in the background there's some red maples. They're kind of or red oaks. And those oaks will hold their leaves all winter. And they produce a small acorn. And when they start producing acorns, those are too small for acorns right now. Whitetails up here love them. It's like candy for them. And so we have a lot of red oaks, even though they're kind of stunted in this northern country, they can attract a lot of whitetails like white oak acorns do in other states across the United States. And not only that, but they like to eat those leaves all winter. By spring, most of the leaves on those small trees like that will be gone because whitetails will have eaten them. And when we've been on stand, we've watched lots of deer, does with fawns, come walking into view, and they go over those trees and they nibble on them for 10-20 minutes. And the fawns are learning from their mothers that, oh, there's a good winter food. And apparently there's enough nutrition in those leaves on those trees to support them in the wintertime. But #1 here is the red osier. The ground blind we were talking about that we started using, a natural one, a lot of trees fell down, kind of a brush pile, is right over there. See that tall evergreen tree? That's called a black spruce tree. And black spruces are all over this country. And it's just beneath that. You see how dark it is back in there? There's a lot of cover between here and there to hide the hunter. As long as you're sitting still back of that brush pile back there, it's very unlikely that deer out here in this opening are going to see you. You know, finding what we found here in the last 20 minutes, including that bed that we saw back there, and this evidence here, this is, somebody's going to take a buck here this year. It might not be the biggest buck, but you never know, because more deer than that 2.5-year-old buck sign that we found here have been coming to that mineral block, and they've eaten it all up. That one 2.5-year-old couldn't have eaten that one up in one summer. So there's lots of other deer that have been coming here. So that tells us there's plenty of deer living in this area here. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest bucks I've ever shot, a big 13-point monster, I took not so far from here, about 150 yards, right over that way. One morning, early one morning, on opening morning. And we've taken a number of bucks throughout this area here before the area was logged. It's been kind of dead for years, but now this is exciting. You know, hunting is, the deer numbers are down in this area this year. They've been down for 3 years. In this area, only 1 deer per 10 square mile has been taken by hunters. But us Nordbergs usually do pretty well anyway. Usually get our 4 bucks a year. And I'm pretty sure, I think this is a spot where one is going to be taken this year. Either by John, who found this spot, or his son Jimmy. Jimmy took his first buck, not here, it was in the area, where was that area?
Moose Mountain.
Oh yeah, up there, Moose Mountain, back of Moose Mountain. Well, we'll be looking at that thing today, or tomorrow, or the next day. And that's an exciting place. We'll find a feeding area there that's full of tracks and droppings, I'm sure. We always have in the past. And there was a bunch of does over there last year, and there was a great big buck over there last year. So I'm looking forward to scouting that area. But right now, this is a top stands area right here. When sitting on that endo, it's not going to be good for west wind. You'd waste your time, you'd ruin it coming here in a west wind. If deer are out here in the dark feeding on this red osiers, you come here in the dark in the morning, they're going to smell you coming, they're going to smell you there. You don't want to be there. North wind would be great. The north wind would come from that way, it would sweep across the open. You'd be crosswind of those deer. So that's a pretty safe way to come into this area. When you have a north wind sitting on the west, will be fine. Or south wind. South wind coming across through that elder swamp right there. I don't think any deer would be coming out of that elder swamp. They might be coming around the corner, and they might come, well, from all directions actually, but south wind would be fine. East wind would be perfect. We don't get a lot of east winds, but there was a deer season a few years ago when we got east winds the whole season, so you never know. But this is going to be a good stand site. Somebody's going to get a buck here. I tell you what, I'll bet you later this year, a few weeks from now, I'll be standing here next to John or Jimmy, and there's going to be a buck around, a good one, and because of what we found here today. So, good luck to us, hey? And good luck to you, too.